All right, everybody, Mike Davis here in the den at FOX5 Studios. I'm joined by one of my personal, this is a guy I admire, a personal hero, a guy that my dad got me into at a very young age. You might know him from a multitude of different various reasons, from Bulletproof Coffee. He's the father of biohacking. This guy has really made a strong imprint on our life and improving our existence here on planet Earth. He's one of the greatest entrepreneurs I really think on the face of the earth. It's the great Dave Asprey. Dave, four-time New York Times bestseller. You've done a little bit of everything. I'm an OG from Bulletproof Radio. You got the Human Upgrade podcast now, so it's a pleasure to have you here in the flesh, in person, inside the den.
Mike, well, that's quite an intro. Thanks.
No, I'm excited to talk to you. Listen, we're going to be getting some tangible advice that we're going to be able to utilize and implement into our life for the holiday season. Some biohacking tips for travel, for spending time with family during Christmas, Hanukkah, all that good stuff. But your story is so fascinating. I think I want to start from the beginning because, you know, you're growing up in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah.
You're a super fit guy right now. You got, you know, you're almost like a cyborg in terms of how much you got going on for yourself. You want to live to 180.
At least. Let's put a cap on it.
But if we saw pictures of you, if we knew you back when you were growing up, persistent strep throat, arthritis in both of your knees.
At age 14.
Obese. Yeah. I mean, so many different things going on. Tell me a little bit about, you know, this journey and what your life was on a day-to-day basis, because your parents were scientists. They impressed upon you an interest in experimenting and doing all these great things, but you were such a different human being, but you had a special internal makeup. It's kind of like a superhero origin story.
Yeah, including the vampire bat that bit me. That was So I hit 300 pounds when I was 23 years old. And I was obese as a teenager. I had all these health problems as a kid. Asthma. I had ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder.
Okay, I don't even know what that
is. It's actually a clinical thing. It makes you a good entrepreneur, but that Rage Against the Machine song,
yes.
You know, F you, I won't do what you told me, that just runs in your head constantly and it controls your actions. And I had OCD and ADHD and Asperger's syndrome. So I had a brain and a biology that really didn't work because I was dealing with constant neuroinflammation and autoimmune issues, but we didn't know what it was. This was the 80s. Like, who the heck? So I was living in a basement that was full of toxic mold, which we didn't know was a problem back then. And that was the probable thing that caused it, probably some genetics. And I'm pretty smart, but I have no social skills. So I'm at the top of my class, but I have like this is the stack of papers for my misbehaviors. And I'm like, what's the problem? I'm getting straight A's. Like, you got a problem? So I was kind of an angry, but also neurologically dysfunctional, immune dysfunctional guy. And I just thought it was supposed to hurt all the time because my back hurt all the time. My knees hurt. It was just, everyone hurts when they walk or when they play soccer. By the time I'm 23, I've had 3 knee surgeries. I've just had this crazy stuff going on with my brain where I'm trying to pay attention to things and it doesn't really work. And I went to the doctor. I'm like, something's wrong. And he says, maybe you should try to lose weight. And I'm going, yeah, no kidding, right? And by the way, you're fat too. And what do you think I should do? You should try to eat healthy and exercise. I go, hey man, let me show you what I've done. 90 minutes a day, half weights, half cardio. I can max out all but 2 machines and my cardio is at a 15-degree incline with a weighted backpack. So I do this and I'm on a semi-vegetarian, low-fat diet and I haven't lost a pound in 18 months of this. So I beat myself up for 702 hours in the gym with no results other than strength, but no weight loss, no fat loss. And I thought it must be a moral failing from not trying hard enough. And then I sit down at Carl's Jr. with all my friends. Okay. I'm ordering the chicken salad with no dressing because calories, no chicken because calories. You know, I'm ravenously hungry all the time. And I look around at my friends with their double Western bacon cheeseburgers and like, I work out more than all my friends combined and I eat less than any of them and I'm the biggest guy at the table. Maybe what I'm doing isn't working.
Yeah.
And that was one of my wake-up calls. And a little while later, I learned how to lose 50 pounds. Losing half the weight. I had 100 pounds to lose. Losing half the weight is relatively easy for anyone who's obese. The other half took me 15 years of really understanding biology. So you remember that movie Jurassic Park, the first one?
Of course.
The fat computer hacker? I was a computer hacker in Silicon Valley. I just was working for the good guys. But this was kind of my life. And I'm thinking, how do I get control of my own biology? Because my doctor isn't going to be able to help me. I've asked, I've tried. So I just started doing the research, and I figured what I do during the day is I'm figuring out how to manipulate systems that I don't really know what's inside them. Oh, that's me. How do I manipulate my body? And I made this commitment. I'm only going to do what works. That means I have to measure it. Because what I did before is I had a religious belief. If I work out more and eat less calories, I'll lose weight. It is nonsense. Biology does not work that way. But I thought it did. So it caused me to do things that didn't work and then feel like I was a failure. And what I've done today is I started the biohacking movement. I've helped people lose millions of pounds of weight without ever being hungry one time. And my newest thing is called Upgrade Labs. This is a human AI-powered longevity center. And you come in and we say, hey, what matters to you? Did you want to put on muscle? Did you want to lose fat? Did you want to get smarter? Did you want to manage stress better? Mm-hmm. Did you want to live longer? These are different goals, and they're fundamentally different. Well, once we know where you want to go, then we measure with clinical grade stuff, where are you today? And now we have a plan. And then we use our AI and our team to help you know which of the different types of tech we have to get results in almost no time.
I can't wait for this. I can't wait till it's here in Las Vegas. I mean, it's such an exciting concept, but I think the fact that you're asking these questions, you're curious, you're engaging. I mean, it's a perfect storm of situations here, because to me as a young kid, it is sad to reflect back on your childhood and your young adult life. But what's so fascinating is at such a young age, you have $6 million in the bank. You're selling the first, technically, I mean, I want to get a couple things straight, but you're at Wharton, you're getting a master's, pursuing that kind of stuff. You're a successful human being. You're grinding. You're doing what is kind of indoctrinated into us, is that you got to grind, you got to work hard in your 20s. You're succeeding at an incredible rate. Yeah. But you must have been super unhappy and unfulfilled at the same time. And I think it takes so much courage to be doing so much incredible, fascinating, high-level stuff, but then at the same time to think, I can be better. I can self-improve. So for you to feel...
I didn't start out wanting to be better. I started out wanting to be good enough, because I'm like, okay, I'm miserable all the time. So I tried, getting married way too early in my 20s for a brief period. I made and lost $6 million before I'm 30. So wealth didn't do it. I was in Entrepreneur Magazine when I was 23 for the first product ever sold over the internet before e-commerce had a name. By the way, it's a T-shirt that says caffeine drug of choice.
My drug of choice.
Yeah, I have that tattoo on my bicep. So I'm like,
and this is the intraweb. This is before the internet. Even.
Yeah, before a browser had been invented yet. So I'm doing all this stuff, and none of it made me happy. And I'm thinking, man, all this stuff that's supposed to work. But I also bought disability insurance, because I was thinking, I don't know if I can keep doing this, because my brain is so bad. I don't remember half the stuff happening in my meetings. And when I started going to Wharton, I was failing out of my classes. So finally I said, I got to get help. So I found this guy named Dr. Daniel Amen, who I'm on his board of directors now. He's a dear friend. And he had written his first book about what's really going on in your brain. And I went to one of his clinics, and I walk in the door. The doctor looks at me and goes, oh, tech bro wants Adderall. I've seen this before. But he orders me a scan, kind of blows me off. And I come back and he just looks at me and he goes, Dave, inside your brain is total chaos. You have the best camouflage I've ever seen. I don't even know how you're standing here in front of me. So what was going on is I have the pedal all the way to the floor all the time, and my car is slowing down, and there's no way I can push harder. And there are so many people listening right now. They're faking it. We don't show it, because showing it's just a sign of weakness. You probably won't get the next promotion, won't get the next raise. So you just do your best and you grind it out. And there's a feeling of helplessness that's behind that. So for me, I'm thinking, I just got to get my brain to at least work. But when I started doing this, I realized, why would I stop once I come back? And that one conversation, oh, I have a hardware problem. It's not a moral failing. There's something wrong in my brain, and it's not me trying or thinking or wanting. It's that the meat isn't working.
But let's be real here. To to have such a healthy ego, to be able I mean, listen, if this is a different era, if this was happening today, and you have a 26-year-old who's made $6 million and lost $6 million, who's done the first thing ever in history and sold a T-shirt that had, caffeine is my drug of choice and all these things, the fact that that person could have a healthy enough ego to look within and actually take and be receptive to a guy like Dr. Amen is highly unlikely. And so I'm very curious about, like, and I know you're, for somebody to allow yourself to be reframed when you're so successful, smart, have a high intellect, have a lot to offer, that's high. It's like Kobe Bryant level stuff. Thank you. It's the stuff of it's high level self-improvement, something within you. Where is that instilled from, being a younger kid and you're in Albuquerque and it's tough being a high schooler with that? Like, where does that power come from to the yearning to want to be that good and impressive, even when you have so much going for yourself?
I think it's shifted over time, but back then I was bullied a lot. Having Asperger's got me social skills. I'm also the biggest guy, so physics. I never lost a fight, and I never started a fight. But a lot of entrepreneurs, and actually a lot of professional athletes too, they've been bullied. And then there's this inner invisible drive to say, I'm going to prove how good I am. And I had some of that early in my tech career. And once I got my brain back, I got my energy, my health back. The reason that I started the blog that became Bulletproof, I wanted to help 5 people not go through the suffering.
It was just an executive leadership kind of blog.
It was just like, hey, if you know this stuff, it's going to change your life, and you won't spend $2 million getting healthier and higher performing, because I should have been able to do it for a lot less money, but the experts were dissipated. The knowledge was hard to find. So I said, I'm going to put it together. I did it for me, and this is a give back thing. Mm-hmm. And even when I first started selling mold-free coffee, which really matters in coffee for how you feel, it was not supposed to be a big business. I was making $250,000 a year. I had stock options in a public company. I'm a VP, and I fly over the world making keynote presentations. So I didn't need to start a company. And it was just, if someone had just told me this when I was 19, it would have changed my life so profoundly that was the entire spirit, and it still is, behind everything I do. If someone would have just let me know. And it was the shift from, I'm going to show you I'm good enough, I'm going to make enough money, I'll be happy, to I just don't want other people to go through all this crap. And I'm still there. That's my motivation.
Well, there's a select amount of people on earth that are really like you. You're very, you've had Tim Ferriss on your show. Yeah. You remind me a lot of him. You have,
he's a good guy.
An ability and a want to improve yourself. And that's why you're in Tibet. You're dealing with altitude issues like most of us probably would on a hike or in a journey. Oh, yeah. And you have this yak butter that is, it transforms your ability in that moment to engage with this experience. And you have the presence of mind to say, we can implement this into Bulletproof Coffee. So, and now you got Dangerous Coffee. So, there's a lot of great things here. Before we continue on your journey, because I think there's so much to talk about, it's the holiday season. There's a lot of people that want to be like you, that want to just have that improvement, instill some things in their life so they can get through basic level things. Because yes, maybe there's a spectrum of struggle. There's a spectrum of how people deal with day in, day out desires and things. And that's why I think what's so great about you, my first thing I read was Headstrong by you,
that's a fun book.
And I think it's so much of stuff is like, listen, whether we want to be high achieving to your degree, where we're an entrepreneur doing all these high level things, or if we just want to like get through the holiday season with an in-law, like these are all things that we can.
They're the same.
Right.
They're exactly the same. What people really want is we want control over our state. And this is what I learned in Tibet from the Buddhists. It's that it's possible to be so strong, and not invulnerable strong, but just so powerful that nothing in the world around you can take you out of your chosen state. So if you want to be in fight mode, you chose to be in it. You were not triggered into it. You want to be in you want to be in peaceful family mode. And then your mother-in-law or whatever can say whatever she was going to say that would have just lit you up. And it doesn't even change your heartbeat a little bit because you've got this.
Yeah.
And that's why the new coffee is called Danger Coffee, because who knows what you might do. When you have enough energy in your cells, your ability to self-regulate is legion.
I love it. So let's do this, because before we get to that, we're going to make our way through this interview. Okay. So before we get to the Christmas dinner where we have our mother-in-law, Suzanne, there, who we don't love, let's just say traveling to that dinner. Okay. So some travel, first of all, before we even get to that, you're the guy, if we go in Merriam-Webster and we look up biohacking, it literally says your name. Like, I mean, you're the guy who coined this phrase, termed it. So for our audience, I think this is a great opportunity. Just tell us, before we get some tangible tips, tell us what is the true definition of biohacking from the father of biohacking himself.
It is now a global movement. The biohacking conference I started 14 years ago has 4,000 people coming to Austin in May this year, and it's just this global thing. And the definition is the art and science of changing the environment around you and inside of you so you have full control of your own biology. And the important thing here is you change the world around you so your body will behave itself. You don't just focus on your body.
It's the give and take with the universe. It's maximizing how you understand yourself and how you interact with the universe and how the universe interacts with you.
Yeah, and understanding there's a third of a second when something happens in the world around you and your body gets that signal. It decides what to do. It makes hormones, it makes stress, it does all these things, and then you get to feel it. And that means if you change either your behaviors or you set up your environment, suddenly travel isn't so painful anymore, and you have way more energy at the end of the day.
Okay, so let's role play. Let's make pretend we're in an airport. It's a stressful environment. We're getting ready to get on a flight to go visit our family for Christmas. We get to the airline. We're waiting to board this flight. Everybody, immediately, we're boarding Group B, and everybody's already rushing up, making sure they're cutting people. It's the worst of humanity in these moments. And we have so much stuff that's happening externally that it creeps inward. What are some of the things we can do to help ourselves throughout this whole travel journey so we're a best version of ourselves?
When people cut in line, I usually just use pepper spray. Okay. Here's what you do. Understand the lighting in airports is crappy. The background noise is crappy. And everything they could do with those overhead voices telling you things you don't care about on record loop, like if you see something you don't like, please tattle. Why does that need to be recorded? Because they hate you. So, and by the way, the more stressed you are at the airport, the more you will spend at the little vendors there. That's one of the reasons I do it.
Interesting.
So your job is to just not deal with that. So if you see me traveling, I'm going to be wearing a ball cap. You pick your favorite team. I'm going to be wearing these True Dark glasses. These block toxic blue light, but allow the good blue light through. And you always wear, if you don't have those, wear sunglasses on the airplane. I'm not even kidding. And get yourself some good noise canceling headphones. And I have worked with so many senior execs, and they go, when I get off the flight, I feel normal again. So just turn down the noise. And that means your conscious brain doesn't have to do all the work of that. And if someone cuts you off in line, the best thing you could ever do is miss a flight once and realize, oh, I got there anyway. Because there's this feeling like you're going to die. Yeah. And if someone cuts in line in front of you, who cares? You're all getting on the airplane. It just doesn't matter. And you can tell yourself a story. They did it because they think you don't matter. You can also choose a different story. I like the one that they're getting on the airplane probably because they really have to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. I don't really care, right? You're going to get on when you get on. And once you start doing that, you go, okay, what else could I do to set myself up for success? This is a hack I learned from Nick Foles.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm from Philadelphia. He's our hero. He's the guy who got the first Super Bowl championship ever for the Philadelphia Eagles.
He's such a kind human.
He's from Austin area.
Yeah, just a great human. So I used to wear these socks. I fly a lot, I have millions of miles. So you're supposed to wear these compression socks that help you not get blood pooling in your legs.
Yeah, a lot of surgeons wear them.
Yeah. However, it's like really an old person thing, to be honest. So Nick just said, Dave, just wear compression tights and a compression shirt. And I said, seriously? He said, just try it. And I did. So when you fly, all the cells in your body swell up. You don't feel as good when you land. If you're wearing black compression tights under your jeans when you get on the airplane, and I wear a compression shirt, then not only do you look all ripped in the compression shirt, but when you get off the plane, your brain is totally good. And you make sure you drink water with electrolytes in it. Don't eat on the airplane. Their food is crap, and you can't digest at altitude anyway. So have some coffee before you get on the flight. Have a snack an hour or so before. Have a meal even. But when you're in the air, when the stewardess comes around with that, why do you need to eat on a 3-hour flight? It's literally 3 hours. What is the point of eating a gross lunch?
Yeah, it's just a conditioning kind of.
Just say no thanks. Listen to an audiobook, watch something on the thing, and just zone out. But you can't hear anything with good noise canceling headphones. You will change your entire trip. So now you arrive refreshed. You feel so much better. As soon as you get there, go outside, take off any glasses you have on, and let some natural sunlight get into your eyes. It's going to help your body reset your circadian rhythm if you're crossing time zones.
For, to be this intentional, like that, to me, that is the barrier when I hear all these things, because information is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're living in an age where there's more information than anybody knows what to do with.
Oh, yeah.
Good and bad information. So information's only half the story. Implementing, being intentional, knowing that, okay, I just heard this great nugget of information from Dave. I got to wear compression tights when I go on I got to have my ball cap on. I got to do all these things. How do we start shifting and making those little steps where we're actually being active and we know the information, but we're actually going to do it?
Well, it's funny. I don't really want people to implement new habits. I just want you to do your existing habits in a way that works better for you, so that it's worth any change. So every recommendation I ever make has to have a big return on investment of energy and time. You were probably going to either comb your hair or put on a hat anyway. So put on a hat, right? You had to do it. You were going to get dressed that morning, right? And you can say, well, I don't have compression tights. Go to Amazon, order some compression tights for recovery, and then you'll have them. And that day you were going to put on some underwear, put on that pair of underwear today. It's just not a big deal.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
And noise canceling headphones, if you don't have some, you should have some. They're cheap and they'll change your life, because sitting with the roar of the airplane and people chattering and babies crying, you don't have to have any of that. And you'll land, and then your mother-in-law has no power to dysregulate you. And that's totally worth it.
Okay, so it's so interesting, because every time I see you and engage with your content, I'm reflecting back to all these different iterations of you. You had even a different look where you had your hair kind of more down and a beard, and there's been so many different. But it seems like you're just getting healthier and healthier, more fit, and it's like each and every iteration of you is developing consistently.
So I'm 4.8% body fat right now. And I exercise 20 minutes a week using AI at Upgrade Labs. And on the cover of my new book, which is called Heavily Meditated, comes out early next year, I'm with my shirt off. Now, the thought of me as a 300-pound computer hacker being with my shirt off anywhere, it just doesn't even compute in my brain. But I look like I play water polo.
How old are you?
Well, the lab tests say I'm 30s, and I think I identify as being in my 30s, but the calendar thinks I'm 52.
Wow. And biochemistry-wise, as a young guy in your 20s, you had the biochemistry of a 60-year-old.
I did. I had high risk of stroke and heart attack. My blood was super thick. I had prediabetes. I had arthritis. I had the cognitive dysfunction you get when you're older. I mean, I was a wreck. And if I can do this, it's much easier for other people. And I've built longevity as a foundational part of biohacking. The reality is no one wants to live forever until you lose the weight, until you work on your brain, until your body feels good. And then you're going, I have to be more conscious. I have to live longer. And that's why longevity is so important to me, because life is worth it when it's this good.
So when you're younger, you're in their 20s, you're doing all this stuff. I mean, listen, you're at Wharton, you're also working at startups. You were with a company that was hosting Google servers.
It was 2 guys and 2 computers, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and the Facebook, yeah.
Exactly. So you're doing high level stuff that's high level stress for a guy of that age and all that stuff. When you really start seeing your body change, is that when it became addictive for you to really double? Because you said you're at Carl's Jr. and you're not having the Western burger. You're punishing yourself without getting the results. Was it when you finally started doing more of the intermittent fasting and other types of things? Was that when when you started seeing the weight come off, is that how it becomes intoxicating and you start?
It doesn't have to be intoxicating. And if it does become intoxicating, there are lots of people who use food as an addiction. It's called orthorexia. And so for me, it was, I just want to feel good all the time. And I learned if I eat that food, my brain isn't going to work afterwards.
So
I'm going to wake up the next day fat and puffy. So it was a process of figuring out what food is compatible with my biology and why, and then teaching other people how to figure out what foods work for them.
So for the holidays, when you're at a Christmas dinner, are you going to partake in stuff that you know is not good for yourself just because it's fun to do during the time of year? Do you give yourself that leeway? I saw somewhere that you would drink alcohol, but maybe you're taking some tablets or some things that are going to negate some of those effects. So do you partake in things, or you just really can't even?
I partake in some things. So I know that the optimal combination of food would be this for me. And I do that most of the time because it includes ribeye. Like I win. So,
right.
But okay, I'm at a Christmas meal. I know there are some foods that if I eat that, because of my genetics and my background, I will have my arthritis come back. And for me, it's the nightshade family. And Tom Brady also avoids nightshades.
Yeah.
And nightshades include my favorite thing on earth, which is chili peppers. And if I eat those, one bite of them, I get an allergic reaction, and then I have joint pain for weeks. So I am not going to eat the jalapeno poppers because it's not worth it. But will I have something that has some sugar and some stuff that isn't great for me? Yeah. So the idea is you don't have to be a monk. That's no fun. What you want to do is you want to say, I'll eat the pumpkin pie because that works for me, but I'm not going to eat the whatever other thing because that one just isn't compatible.
So if I had an Upgrade Labs here in Las Vegas, you're telling me that I could go there and I could be equipped and start learning all this stuff about, would this be part of it where I would be able to learn some of these things about myself and be equipped with this knowledge so I know, okay, I can have hot chili pepper. Like, is that part of the experience?
We don't go so deep to make the nutrition personalized yet, although that's coming very quickly. What you do is you come in the door and we figure out where's your inflammation, where's your fat. A lot of people who think they're lean, they have fat all over their organs. And I have lean fat in my liver equal to an 18-year-old who's abundantly healthy. And so that means I know what's going on with me. But a lot of people come in like, what's going on with your left leg? I'm like, how did you know? Like, well, because your left leg is more inflamed than your right because the data shows it. So it's very scientific. And then you say, you know what? I want to go deeper. And then we'll send someone to your house and we'll draw your blood and we'll do your labs for you. And based on the labs and based on what you do at Upgrade Labs, we'll tell you, here are the things that will move the needle in the right direction for you most quickly. Right? And we may say, you would benefit from a food allergy test, or you could just not eat them for 2 weeks.
Right.
And then feel really good and then eat a bunch of stuff and go, oh, wait, I've got to figure this out. So there are more and more labs coming out for food testing. I like a company called Viome for that, Viome. And there's an almost unlimited number of things that you could do and amount of money you could spend. My job is to say, you're going to spend 30, 40 minutes, 2-3 times a week, and you're going to get so much more benefit from coming in that it makes the gym look like a joke. And as an example, if you'll do 15 minutes of cardio with my AI tools at Upgrade Labs, you'll improve your cardio performance by 12%. If you do 5 hours of a spin class, you'll improve by 2%. I'm getting you 6 times better results in 15 minutes instead of 5 hours.
So let me ask you this. Your buddies with Nick Foles. Tom Brady loves biohacking and all your stuff. You're friendly with him. Why are the Philadelphia Eagles, why are the New England Patriots, why are these organizations? I mean, you should be, your company, yourself should be implemented in every National Football League team, every major sports franchise, right?
There are a lot of them.
To see this?
Oh yeah, there are tons. A lot of the coaches or the performance trainers, they're following me on the podcast. They've read the books. Nick was an outlier because he was making coffee with butter in it for the entire team. In fact, in his book, and we had no financial deal. I didn't even know this. He just, in his book, I think 6 or 8 times he mentioned my work, and he was on all of the supplements that I formulated when he won the game. And he's public about this. I wouldn't say it otherwise. And wow, you look at guys like the Bryant brothers.
Yeah,
right?
from tennis.
Oh yeah, totally. The best tennis, they're all over biohacking. I've had lunch with them, and it's because it works. And if it works for these guys, if you have a stressful day at the office, it's not different. You both have stress. So what helps them recover is going to help you recover. And part of my mission is to take the things that most of us don't have access to, and then to make it so it's a monthly membership.
Right.
That's what Upgrade Labs is
And
about.
that's why I think you're a tremendous entrepreneur, because it's not just about money. It's not just about those surface level things. It's about improving the human existence, you know? And
Oh, yeah. If I wanted to make money, I would have just been like, go keto. And I would have been like a keto bro and just had that with you. Or do intermittent fasting.
Right.
Like, guys, you actually are fasting wrong. So let me write a whole book. You don't make money writing books. It's a huge waste of time. It helps people. But here's a book about how to change your fasting. And if I was to be on one consistent method, I know as an entrepreneur that I'd build an empire around that. My empire is around human performance and longevity and consciousness, and it's not one company. And I didn't trademark biohacking as a term.
Really?
Because, oh yeah, I wanted it to be a new word. I wanted it to be a movement for humans. It's not my movement. I founded it. I lead it. It's a $16 billion industry, according to analysts today, because I didn't trademark it. And when I was running Bulletproof, yeah, we did about $750 million in lifetime revenue. That's an entrepreneurial win beyond belief. But it's a tiny drop in the bucket compared to all of the people working together on making humans more powerful, more grounded, happier. And that's why I do the biohacking conference. It's biohackingconference.com. We have hundreds of companies building these things that pro athletes use and healthy humans use, and they're not all expensive. This isn't for wealthy people. This is for all people. It's like, where's the manual for being human? That no one ever wrote one.
And you're a very gifted orator and just a performer. I mean, you've opened for Tony Robbins. You're really good at all that kind of stuff. May 2025 in Austin, there's going to be that great conference. It's interesting. What is a persistent kind of, if your superhero quality? What do you think it is from the one that has lasted and served you till now to when you were in Albuquerque as a young kid in a basement with mold? What is the same? What is the core trait or attribute that you really, if you had to distill your success into one trait or attribute, what would it be?
You're not going to like it. It's capacity for suffering. And if you see the interviews with Elon Musk, he talks about how being a CEO at a startup is like eating broken glass every day because all the problems come your way. You listen to the interviews with the founder of NVIDIA and said, if you could tell yourself, go back to when you were 19 and give yourself advice, what would it be? He says, don't do it. It's not worth the stress. So my superpower is kind of like Wolverine, like take the hits,
and regenerate.
And I've had to evolve so much. I mean, I've had some major celebrities try to take me down for financial reasons. I got removed from Bulletproof, the company I founded. And so I've gone through a lot. And I've had so many detractors, even though my work has helped millions of people. There's always the people who were giving bad advice, who get really angry, and then they resort to personal attacks. So I've had to really learn how to, suffer both physically from all the diseases I had, and then to learn how to actually take none of this as pain or suffering. So I love it. People come and they try and troll me, and I know now, oh, we're playing 7th grade bullying games. So I just respond, so's your mom. I'm having so much fun at this point because I know the game, but it took me a lot of time to know the game.
Is there moments like that you reflect upon in middle school, high school that still just like, inciting type of incidents that just cause you major heart strain and stress? Like, I'd love to know a one or two.
Well, one of my companies, one of the smallest ones, is called 40 Years of Zen.
Yeah, that looks really interesting.
And it's up in Seattle. And
there's these pods you can go in.
Yeah, they're pods, and we glue electrodes to your head, and we look at your brain and then show you what it's doing. So I've spent 6 months of my life with electrodes glued to my head. And each 5 days of 40 Years of Zen is the same as meditating for an hour a day for decades. And your brain, when you're done, has the same brainwaves as a Zen monk. And in order to do all that sort of stuff, the main process, and this is the whole topic of my next book, it's if anything brings up an emotion like that, anything on earth triggers you, if you can be triggered, you're carrying a loaded gun. And it means you can be programmed. So every single thing that's ever been an inciting part of anywhere in my life, I've gone through and I've run this thing called the reset process on it. and I've let it go. So my operating system in the body no longer is reactive. It's not that I chose to be reactive. It's that my body was reacting and then I believed it. My body doesn't react anymore to that stuff. I'm at peace.
Wait, so, okay, a couple things. The title of your next book, what is it called?
Heavily meditated.
Okay, so this is so super fascinating. And if you got to look up this 40 Years of Zen, because it just looks like the most picturesque, like, Japanese almost type retreat where there's these pods. It looks very Rick Rubin, Shangri-La-ish,
We've had some very powerful athletes, celebrities, billionaires come through. And it is transformational beyond what you would do with ayahuasca or something.
So let me share a little bit of myself. Literally happened to me yesterday. It applies to this. I'm curious how, if I was in this training, how I would have reacted differently. Okay. So in June, I broke up with my ex-girlfriend, who now, being in therapy and learning certain things, I've figured out maybe she was a covert narcissist type of person. But anyway, not a tremendous human being.
It was either her or you, one of you. Okay, you laughed. Good. You did some healing work, just checking.
I have faults too, but I get a text message. We haven't spoken maybe in 6 months. Yesterday I'm driving. I get a text message from her, a frivolous text message that's very transactional and very based in it's just, it sounds like you're sending like a Xerox document to somebody. Just very possessing
impersonal.
Impersonal, possessing zero humanity. I haven't seen this name pop up on my cell phone in 6 months.
Right.
Immediately when I'm driving and the notification comes on my screen, my chest tightens up.
Wow.
Right around my heart. Everything. I'm the reaction I'm getting to this is so immediate.
Yep. Good for you for noticing the reaction. A lot of people don't even have that skill.
My chest is tightening up. Everything. It's just my rage. All the types of, all the worst parts of myself that I'm doing the work to try to be honest with and look in the mirror and know I'm feeling these things. It all just comes together in that singular moment. And now it's like I'm riding this angry wave. So if I'm at 40 Years of Zen, what happens if I read your next book? How am I dealing with this? How am I changing that interaction?
Let me tell you what really happened. Okay. The message came through, and there's a distributed system inside your body. It's your mitochondria, it's your nerves. It's not your brain. It's not the parts of you that you identify as you. It's much faster than you. It's the part of you that's supposed to respond if there's a threat in the world.
Fight or flight.
Yeah, like if you lean on a hot stove, your hand will move itself and you'll take credit for it, right? Because no one can move their hand by choice that fast, right? So this triggered your nervous system to feel a threat. And it happened a third of a second before your brain even had a chance to process what happened. The feeling came before the cognition, and it always does, and I can prove this over and over with neuroscience. So now the feeling is there, and you're like, this is the body going, there's a threat, right? And the threat is, if I don't have love in my life, the species won't reproduce, and then we'll all die. Now, you know that's not true, but your body is stupid. It's just exceptionally fast, right? So there's probably some other things about, rejection and all that we all have. And I've been divorced twice and, gone through breakups, and they're always painful, but they aren't as painful now as they were when I was much younger. So what's going on is understanding your body has its own response that makes sense from its perspective. And then your brain tells yourself a story about that, right? Like the idea that it was impersonal. You don't really know if it was impersonal or not, right? And so all that is, it's the same. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Is it because they think you're a jerk, or is it because they're on the way to the hospital to have their baby born? Like, you just don't know. But the story that you tell yourself, you sure believe it. So what you do at 40 Years of Zen, and the whole reset process in Heavily Meditated, is based on the idea that you can reset any neurological response that's negative and permanently reset it so that it no longer triggers ever again. Let me ask you this. What's the first time you ever had a feeling like that?
It's probably, it's got to be pre-K, kindergarten.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think it's that. Yeah, I can tell you 19 of them right now.
So there you go. And you are not alone. I have had billionaires in the room break down in tears talking about first grade stuff.
Yeah.
And I've dealt with some of that too. In fact, you want to hear a story about me that'll illustrate this
I would
for you?
love to know.
Okay. I've done a lot of work on myself. And I've been on the Joe Rogan show 3 times. And after I was on the 3rd time, he just went on the air and was like, Dave Asprey's a liar and a con artist. And meanwhile, before that, it was, he changed my life and look at all this good stuff. And I was completely like, what just happened? And it was really ungrounding. All of a sudden, my social media went from thanks for changing my life to, you're a snake oil salesman. And I should have just been like, whatever. And it was financially motivated. It's because one of his companies was copying my product set and he wanted to sell their stuff. But one of the guys who works for me, who's a convoy commander in Iraq, his job is to drive past explosive things with generals. So
oh my God.
It's an unshakable guy, my friend Zach. He's like, Dave, something's wrong. Like, you shouldn't be reacting this way. Like, who is this? Right? I'm not saying Joe's I like what he did during the pandemic, but at the time, that was the conversation. So I said, God, I got to go sit down and put the electrodes on and do this. And all of a sudden, a memory that I had forgotten for 30 years popped into my head. It's that in 1st grade, some other kid did something he shouldn't have done, and I told the teacher about it. Now, I was a tattletale, sure. But I told the teacher about it, which was the right thing to do. And he goes, no, I didn't do it. Dave did it. And I got punished for someone else's work. And the injustice of that, just the rage of 1st grade, the injustice was that I helped Joe and I helped his followers and I got punished for it. I didn't know. None of this is conscious. I'd forgotten about that experience, but it just popped into my head. I was like, oh my God, that's the first time I ever felt this sense of injustice and rage. The number of people who are triggered by injustice today is insane. Injustice happens in the world. You don't have to be triggered by it. You can do something about it. But if you're triggered, you can't do something about it. So I had to go back and I had to run this reset process to let the experience in 1st grade go. And when I did that, clarity around the Joe Rogan situation emerged. Every time Joe Rogan says Dave Asprey's a bad man, I sell more coffee. That was reality. But for me, I was like, oh, I'm dying. All the stress, all the heart tension, all the stuff you talked about, that was my problem, not his.
It's that basic of a human condition thing. I mean, that's why you're dealing with so many things that are so charting new territory. Mm-hmm. We're making progress in so many different ways, but it comes back to a conflict in 1st grade.
And you have to understand, it happens before you can think. This is why athletes choke, right? They're sitting there, you're going to take your shot, right? And then some little thing comes in, but it comes in before the conscious brain and it throws you off.
Yeah, so let's dissect that. Like Philly, when Nick Foles, your buddy, when in that Super Bowl game against the New England Patriots, they're at the goal line, they're going for 2. They gotta make this play happen. They do that trick play that has gone down into, history now. What's going on in that moment that he's not choking? What is he? What are the practices that he's implementing? Okay. Why does he not choke in that moment? Because this is a guy who, he bounced around a lot of teams. Comes from University of Arizona. He was a good player, had a lot of talent. You got to be elite to be in the NFL, but it wasn't like he was considered Patrick Mahomes. So what does he do in crunch time? Why is he successful and not choking?
There's 2 reasons. One of them is that he built his biological energy to be exceptionally high. The more powerful your body is, the more willpower you have and the more you can hold your line. So he was doing all the biohacking things so that he had more cognitive power than others. And Nick has one of the most profound and humble gratitude practices on the planet. Everything he does is of service. He talks about his relationship with God, how he prays, what he does for his family is for his fans. He has the smallest ego of any top-level athlete I've ever met. Just a profoundly good human being. Like if someone was supposed to play Superman, it would be Nick Foles as a human being. So he's doing what he does as an act of service for his fans and for his teammates. And when you are performing an act of service instead of an act of ego, you're in a flow state. So he has abundant power energetically because he knows how to eat and what supplements to take and how to biohack. And he has a reason and he has this gratitude. And when you go to 40 years of Zen, the first thing we teach you is you go back to that, whatever your experience in 1st grade was. And you go into a bit of an altered state that we teach you, and you're doing this with electrodes on your head. And you figure out what's one good thing that came about from whatever the situation was. And it turns out there's always a good thing. You just never thought of it because your body wanted you to only think about the negative. and you find the good thing and you turn on gratitude. Because if you don't have gratitude, you can never let something go. And after you gratitude, then you go into another altered state. Again, no drugs required. We do have ketamine as an option because it helps you change your brain faster. But when you go into this state, you start seeing things from the other person's point of view, right? And okay, why did she do that? Perspective taking. And suddenly anger will shift to at least empathy. You're like, oh, I could see from their perspective. Like clearly they don't know all the facts, but they're feeling this way. And empathy becomes compassion. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a flawed human being. The reason that he or she acted that way is probably like, look at their parents. Like, look at their upbringing. Look at all the stuff they've gone through. And you're like, wow, I wouldn't want to be them. And all of a sudden, it's hard to be mad at this person because they're just a flawed person.
Yeah. The intellectual jump doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah, it's not intellectual. It's all in your heart.
Yeah.
Right? And for you, with what you experienced and you got that text, what I would suggest you did before you even came into 40 Years of Zen is to learn about heart rate variability. You probably know this from like wearing a ring.
Like an Aura ring.
Yeah, an Aura ring or something. I have the Ultra Human here and the Aura.
You got
them both, right? But when you look at your morning score, like how stressed were you, how recovered were you? Well, you can actually train it in real time. And this was part of my practice because I used to get triggered hundreds of times a day. And you get a little clip called Inner Balance, and you put it on your ear, and then you look at your phone and you make the screen turn green while you breathe. What makes it turn green is changing how your heart beats. It's a conscious thing you can do, but it's like if there was a button in your car that you never pressed, you didn't know it was there. Like, oh, what happens if I press that? You got to find the button, and that's what the app does for you. And when you do that, now you know how to shift out of that state when your heart closes down, and you can do it at will. And it takes about 6 weeks, about 20 minutes a day of training. And I've trained hedge fund managers for this. I've trained big CEOs. I've trained professional athletes to do heart rate variability training. Wow. This is not about looking at your morning score. It's about, how do I close my eyes? How do I sit here? And how do I change how my heart beats? Not up or down. It's changing like the song it's playing.
Yeah.
Different tempo, different spacing. And when you do this, you're shifting from what happened to you. You were triggered. You went into sympathetic. And if that happened and you were about to make a shot, you would have missed the shot.
Right.
Right. But if you had a skill to go, oh, I don't want my body to do that, and you just go back to being calm and grounded. I'm calm and grounded right now. I do this practice before I go on stage for Tony Robbins, before I go to the biohacking conference. I'm in front of 4,000 people at my own thing. And there is not a single drop of stress in my body.
Right.
Because I control the stress. And it's not like through a tight whoop-bar. It's just a different shifting of state. And that's what we teach at 40 Years of Zen too.
See, I love all this. A few things before we get to that Christmas dinner that we all want to make sure we crush.
Okay.
So, do you remember that movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg?
Yeah.
So, what's so fascinating about your trajectory and the progress, I mean, and how you've grown, it's so fascinating when you reflect back on all these touchstones, like the first thing you sell, caffeine is my drug of choice. And then you end up with the bulletproof coffee and you're in Tibet, and like these connections are so fascinating. And you're working on from a very physical thing, not even, in a sense where it's something on the surface and it's like, oh, I want to lose weight to look better, but you're working on physical stuff. And now you're making your way to almost like growing past the physical. And now we're getting to the mental, and the mental state, and this growth and this progression is so fascinating of where you're at. So I guess what I want to ask you is, how necessary is the first grade trauma? Can we get to the point where it is almost like Minority Report and a really like a parent who's such a tremendous parent would maybe be like, listen, I can't helicopter and make sure my kids are not going to have trauma, but I can take them to 40 Years of Zen and teach them how to recalibrate before they even know what a trigger is. Or do we need the trigger?
Oh, that is an amazing question. Whether you need it or not, there will be triggers. The best parents on earth, there'll be that one time where your kid was screaming and you didn't know why they were screaming, and so you did something else. And at the time, it left a mark in the kid's nervous system where the kid felt genuinely unsafe, even though the parent did their best job. And that feeling of unsafety, until you reprogram it, it'll sit there in your tissues, not in your conscious mind. And it'll cause you to do things. It'll cause you to feel things. So it's unavoidable if you're alive. There will be times, especially around birth, around the first 2 years. And quite often you'll get a teacher who criticizes you in public or something will happen, right? And it just leaves a mark. And you don't know, it's all invisible that that's why you're doing it until you go in and you do the work and just unpack it the way we just did. So what we can do though, is we can teach kids skills to regulate their nervous systems. And one of the goals for 40 Years of Zen is to be able to get this into schools, because you can undo every bad thing a bully ever did to you neurologically, and you can do it in about a week. It's not that hard with technology. And in the past, you'd have to go sit in a cave for 10 years.
Which you've done something like that.
Not quite for 10 years, but yeah.
What, you've done it for like 4 days, something.
Yeah. I've been around the world with lots of gurus and all.
Yeah.
And I did all that stuff because the stuff I was doing didn't work. And I find great value in ancient lineages. They just take a long time. And we can use technology to help us get there faster. And some of the tech is this heavy duty stuff, but heavily meditated. It's a book about how to get all the benefits of meditation with less time. So you can still meditate, but make it the most effective for what you want to do. Or maybe you don't want to meditate because this breathwork practice was better. My deal here is you have a lot of things to do in life that matter to you, right? And so do I, and so does everyone. And I want to invest as little of my time and energy as possible on being a fantastic human who's self-aware and lives forever. Right? I do not want to spend 8 hours a day on my longevity and consciousness practice, because I'd have to live 50% longer just to catch up, because I don't get to do all the stuff I want to do. I don't want to spend 2 hours a day in the gym. I want to spend 1 minute a week in the gym. I do 20 minutes a week now. But the deal is, if you invest $1, you want to get $100 back. You're investing every ounce of energy and every second of your life in something. So your personal growth, your longevity, your biohacking, let's just use all of our precious knowledge to make it more effective. Because then you show up as a parent and your kids are less traumatized. And you have a lot better time because you don't get pissed off when your kid says no for the 5,000th time that day, right? So there's these amazing abilities to shift. And if you, as a human being, learn how to be the peaceful one in a room, we have data on this. Other people will start matching your state. We affect each other's states just by being there.
It's so fascinating. Okay, so let's talk about matching that. So we're back to the holidays. We're celebrating Christmas, all this stuff. We want to thank you so much for spending so much of your precious time with us. So many great things to be on the lookout for. May 2025, we got the Biohacking Conference in Austin. We got Heavily Meditated. When is that supposed to come out?
It's coming out in April.
Okay, that's going to be out in April. Can't wait for that. We're at this holiday dinner. We're celebrating with our loved ones. It's a stressful time. What are some of these tangible things that we can implement? Just like you told us, we're traveling. We've got the noise canceling headphones. We got the ball cap. We got the sunglasses on. We got compression shorts on. What can we do when we're sitting at a Christmas dinner?
So now you've already landed. You've changed out of all of your travel stuff, and you're going to dinner. Well, you're going to be tempted to probably have a drink to calm your nerves. Don't do it on an empty stomach. If you're planning to drink, you can do things like take glutathione, which is a commonly available supplement that makes alcohol not harm your liver. You could take a probiotic that cancels out alcohol, which is kind of cool. That's available commercially as well. And you can take activated charcoal, which everyone listening should be taking. And I don't sell any of this stuff. I'm just recommending things. Activated charcoal is available online all over the place.
What do you take? Which activated charcoal?
I'm not that denominational about it.
Okay.
I used to take the stuff I made at Bulletproof, but they have their, I don't know if they're doing the things that I did when I was there. So I will buy whatever brand I've heard of before, and it's a pretty easy to make thing, so I think it's okay. Then I'll take that, and this binds to toxins in food, man-made or just because it's been sitting out for a long time. You will have less hangover if you take activated charcoal, and you'll have less gas and bloating from whatever it is you decide to eat. So if you're going to eat junk food or a lot of food, activated charcoal will really help you feel better the next day and not be reactive that night. And number one, eat your protein first. So if there's appetizers, eat the shrimp with bacon. Don't eat the potato chips. If you're going to eat the potato chips, put a whole lot of guacamole on them because it's protein first, healthy fat second, carbs third. But if you come in, you've already had 3 drinks, you haven't had any food in your stomach, and then you eat a bunch of carb appetizers, you've already completely dysregulated your blood sugar. I'm not telling you don't eat the carbs. You're going to eat the pie and whatever else and the cookies, but start with protein.
It's stacking.
Yep. Start with protein, and you might want to take some supplements that day besides activated charcoal. You can take something called chromium or vanadium, and you could take something called berberine. These are all blood sugar regulators. So if you know you're going to eat just tons of carbs, one of the reasons that you're going to yell at someone at dinner is that your blood sugar spiked and then it dropped. And when your blood sugar goes low, you are a jerk. It's just how it works. Humans are like that. So what you want to do there is protein first, lots of healthy fat, and then eat the carbs after that, and have some herbs or some supplements that help you with your, help you with your blood sugar regulation. And I guess if I was going to plug a brand, there's a supplement called Minerals 101, and you can go to minerals101.com that has those minerals in it. But it's amazing what happens when you just say, I'm going to bind the toxins, I'm going to eat my protein first. And the protein, don't eat like some weird impossible turkey thing. Eat some steak or turkey or something.
Okay. See, a lot of great stuff. And I got to say, we now know a little bit about how I was feeling yesterday, and, matching energy. I can see why you are so successful and have such a unique skill set, because just being in your presence and your orbit, I already feel a little bit more grounded and better. You have a very interesting, energy to you.
I wasn't joking when I said other people will resonate to you.
Yeah.
And that's a skill everyone can learn. And I'll tell you, when I was young and angry, people would resonate to me too. We all know that friend who can walk in a room and it's a downer. Heck, we're in Las Vegas. They have the people who have just nasty energy who will come and sit at the table when you're winning. That's a real thing casinos have. So you don't want to be that guy. You want to be the guy who sits there and is like, wow, I feel good.
Last thing, as if people are watching this right now, there's so many pictures out of you. I mean, and that's why every time I see you, it's like you keep looking better and better and more youthful and healthier than I saw you the last time. There's a lot of pictures of you out there. You got one with a Belgian waffle. There's like,
God, I was like 25 in that picture.
There's all these different pictures of you. If there's somebody out there right now who's doing really well, they're a good person, they have some trauma, they've done a lot of work to just not be a hurtful person to other people, but they're carrying a lot of stuff, and they're grinding, they're working hard, they're successful in their lives. And maybe it's, maybe they're not working in, tech, maybe they're just an accountant or something, but they're out there, they're doing their thing, they're a good person, but they're dealing with these things, the same things, the way that you looked with that Belgian waffle, that's how they are. They're just in that state. What's the number one thing you can tell them right now that you wish you could tell yourself back then?
You're in charge of your own biology, and your biology controls your happiness and controls your stress. So if you tell yourself a story, I'm a successful person because I have a family and a car and a house or whatever else, those are not the measures of success. The measure of success is, do you like your life? Are you happy? And if you can say that the majority of the time you're happy, you experience joy, you experience peace on a regular basis, and you recover. I know people who aren't financially successful who are really good at that, and they are happier people who I would consider more successful than a billionaire who's angry all the time and can't regulate his emotions. So success is about how you feel first, and all the trappings, anything over about $80,000, it won't raise your happiness. And there are studies of this. So success comes from being able to regulate yourself and being able to be kind because you chose to be kind.
Wow. I think this is the greatest Christmas gift this is exactly what I asked Santa for, is this conversation. Thank you so much. This is such a lovely experience to be able to talk with you in the flesh. Guys, Heavily Meditated. Great title, by the way. Can't wait for that. We got to make sure we're checking out Danger Coffee. I'm going to get some from you. Can't wait to try that.
That's good.
Upgrade Labs. I'm going to have to where's the closest one to Vegas? Idaho? Is there one in Idaho I saw?
We've got Coeur d'Alene. We've got a couple in Utah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got to go check
There'll be one here. It's a franchise. People can go to ownandupgradelabs.com and you can become a business partner with me to do that.
Okay. See, that's great. And then the other thing, 40 years of Zen. A lot of the stuff we're going to see in Heavily Meditated with all that stuff is going to be syncing up with that as well. But you can always go check out Human Upgrade, Dave Asprey, father of biohacking. If you go to Merriam-Webster, if you met Merriam-Webster on the street and you asked her, hey, what's the definition of biohacking? She'd say, it's Dave Asprey, the father of biohacking. Dave, any last things you want to say?
Yeah, there's a quote that I think is relevant. It's the goal of life is not to accumulate power, but to radiate it. And it's, geez, I just forgot who wrote that. Oh, it's on the edge of my brain. Should have taken more smart drugs. But the idea here is, yeah, you're going to show up this holiday season, right? And you can be the one who sits there and someone's going to say something unkind, and you just radiate power, but not anger, right? And they just realize, oh my God, it's not working. And you just take a little bit of amusement in watching them try to move your emotions and realizing, no, they're mine. And it's so much more fun to do a holiday that way, where you can watch someone try to trigger you with a sense of amusement instead of a sense of anger.
I love it. And you radiate so much power. It's such a pleasure to be here in the flesh with you. You got to make sure May 2025, go check him out in Austin for the Biohacking Conference. We also got this new great Biohack Yourself documentary that's going to be coming out. It's a whole series on Amazon Prime. We're going to get to see you on that. Dana White, who we love here in Las Vegas, as well as your boy, Dr. Amen, who's going to be a part of that as well, where this whole journey started for you as well. So a lot of great stuff to check out. There's always so many ways to be in touch with this person, but I think you got to go see him in person and see what it's this radiation of this radiation of power that you're providing. It really is a special thing to interact with in the flesh.
Thank you, Mike.
So I appreciate you being here, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, have a wonderful Hanukkah for everybody, celebrating and implement some of these great things. And I think you're going to have an incredible holiday season. We're wishing you the best. Happy holidays, Dave. Thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Happy holidays.